Greetings, my fellow intellectuals and bookworms. It's time for another video. Just so you know, I'm sure everyone's heard about what happened in Iowa 2 days ago, or last night, 2 nights ago. Apparently, it was a complete fuck-up because they brought a new untested piece of technology and managed to fuck it up. What a surprise. And not surprisingly, it delayed the results by about a day and a half. I got them yesterday at like 3 p.m. and they're preliminary. The official ones haven't been released yet, and we only have 67% of the results. But so far, I mean, not surprisingly, with a information vacuum, 4 candidates all spoke. It was actually very interesting to watch, but as I was watching from about 3 p.m. all the way up to more or less 11, slightly after 11 before I went to bed, and about 1 a.m. before I started checking, all candidates rushed in to claim victory, or more or less try and claim victory. Now that we have at least some of the results, we can actually see whether they matched up with my expectations. Since I didn't have results, I made a preliminary guesstimate and even commented during the thing. Since it was several hours long, I didn't think I wanted to live stream that for you guys because I'm sure no one wants to watch me rant, brave, and swore for three fucking hours. But if you want that, make sure to comment below. So, Pete Buttigieg, the mayor from South Bend, Indiana, who inexplicably is doing well in some early vote states for no other reason other than that he's he's a moderate and he seems to be liked because he's got that Midwest appeal for some. Made a speech saying, I think we did well, and all the way to the White House, which I'm not a hypocrite. The difference between inspiring and being a blowhard can be very slim, the line at times. But in this case, without even having the results, he should have struck a more cautious tone. And it seemed really bad. Warren tried to knock off FDR in her speech, and like a complete jackass tried to cut off Joe Biden by having her speech during a time so that he would get cut off and it would go to her instead. And she managed to fail and Biden got in first. But she tried to sound like a discount FDR by saying, all the shit that we've already heard. America needs to move forward. Donald Trump sucks, blah, blah, blah. Then we had the speech by Amy Klobuchar about how I'm the best in the polls. I can win red states. She sounded a lot like Donald Trump. And she's like, we won all the way to the White House. And kind of like Warren, I'm going to be the first woman president. So, again, those were bad. The Biden speech, he forgot what he was saying midway through, and it seemed like he had dementia because his staff aide released a letter signed by him to Iowa Democratic Party saying, we are concerned about your irregularities in your quality control checking. Please hand us the results now, and give us time to react to them when they come out. Which again, so he was saying, we won Iowa, we're going to go all the way to the White House. And then he wrote a letter to his staff basically demanding that the Iowa DNC caucus release their results immediately and that they give them an hour and a half, 2 hours to prepare for it, which sounds like the speech of a loser. I mean, Sanders did the we won speech, and I want to thank all the volunteers won, but at least he, for example, struck a more cautious one. We'll win New Hampshire, we'll win California, we'll win these, we'll go to the White House. And he at least released all the data he had. Some of the others released internal polling, but you know how it is with candidates. You swing it whichever way you want. And now we can say with certainty that Biden came in 5th place, which I predicted at the beginning of the night. I wouldn't want to be the Biden campaign tomorrow. It turns out they only got a day reprieve, and then it was like, how the fuck did you do end up in 5th place. And I predicted that Klobuchar would carry a few counties, and she kind of did, but Sanders got 27% to Mayor Pete's 21%, and Biden barely got 14%. And in caucuses in Iowa City on live TV, they showed that Biden couldn't get more than 20 people in a room, which was actually quite sad. Now, some of them were college caucuses, which, swing Bernie, but there were some in rural areas in which Biden should win, in which it's like, over there's Joe Biden, and they were trying so hard to, not to give him favorable coverage, and they're like, this is a small area, there's 2,000 people in it, and it's like, still, there's 10 fucking people there. Almost all the chairs are empty. And then it's like, Biden has been eliminated. So, I mean, I can be patient, but this has been one of the most fucked up election nights I've ever seen. And as a poll worker, I've had my share of fuck-ups. I'll probably make a video called Poll Worker Stories. But it was just a complete disaster, and everyone knows it. There were memes going around, people were saying that Russia hacked the election, blah, blah, blah. Quality control just sounds suspicious. Again, it sounds like vote rigging. It turned out that there was a discrepancy, 27% for Sanders versus 21 for Buttigieg, then 24% for Mayor Pete, and 23 for Sanders, and then a third election count. But yeah, so it was just a complete shit show. And yes, caucuses are undemocratic. Yes, I would have to say caucuses are bad on principle. But at the same time, they're a historic anomaly. Most states have gotten rid of them for primaries, and after 2016, I believe, well, the last election before now, the number of states using them dropped down to 8. But to a certain extent, I think it's kind of cool how you have to gather around the candidate you support, and you can convince people to go to your side and stuff. So it's an interesting historical anomaly, and to a certain extent, I might be a bit nostalgic, but I would like at least one state to keep it, if only for historical curiosity. My guess is after this fuck up, a lot of states are going to stop using it. And as they said on CNN, if someone doesn't lose their if they don't axe the caucuses after that, or if someone doesn't lose their job, it's not gonna go away. And they also kind of screwed Andrew Yang. He spoke immediately during the free airtime, in which they said, the platforms are set up, we have nothing else to do, the votes aren't coming in, maybe some candidates should take advantage of this and speak for free media airtime. And apparently Yang spoke during the middle of that, but 2.5 hours later at 10 o'clock, they finally showed Yang's speech. And, I mean, Andrew Yang is more or less a younger Bernie Sanders, but more radical. And yes, he's polling low, but keep in mind, now we're down to 11 candidates, a lot of whom actually have no hope. But he's a better candidate than Klobuchar. He's a better candidate than several of the others. And I'm willing to say that he might not exactly be my second choice, because I really think our only choice is Sanders or 4 more years of Trump. And in all honesty, I'm not sure if I could actually stomach a vote for Biden. Now, I don't want Trump to win, don't get me wrong, but I also really don't want Biden in the office either, and I don't think I could actually get myself to vote independent. So if anyone else wins the election, I'm more or less screwed. But I think that Yang honestly has a real chance. Klobuchar is more or less dead in the water. She lost a lot of these preliminary ones when she didn't have enough viable members. Now, she did get that Midwest appeal a little bit, but she lost in the second draw. Bloomberg got a single vote so far, and Delaney dropped out beforehand, but Bloomberg has 8%, but that's honestly because I turn on the TV, 4 Bloomberg ads back to back. Watching the Iowa caucus, literally 20 minutes before it starts, 4 fucking Bloomberg ads. Literally a minute before it starts, another Bloomberg ad. And then Biden complained like a bitch that Sanders was taking pot shots at him, then makes a thinly veiled pot shot towards Sanders and has the awfulness to suggest an apology. Warren suggests that it's been far too long and that there should be a woman in the White House and that she is by rights to be that woman. So it was great entertainment. Honestly, it was one of the most exciting caucuses or elections I've ever watched. And the first election I watched was when I was 12, the U.S. presidential election in 2012. So as a review, it was one of the best elections I've ever seen. And part of it was just because of how fucking stupid it is. I missed the impeachment things, but it went exactly how I planned it would be. Not exactly a show trial, but with a Republican majority, it wouldn't pass. But it's still going to hang over them. And I really think that Yang will probably hang in there, if only because Klobuchar and some of the other ones are probably going to drop out. And who the fuck is Deval Patrick? I googled it, and he's no one important. He's even little experienced by the standards of the fact that a mayor from Indiana with absolutely no other fucking qualifications can actually run and actually be competitive. But both Warren and Biden are on the downward slope in all states, and the lead keeps getting bigger. For example, the initial polls showed Sanders ahead by 8% in Iowa, and he won it by 5% more. And Biden came in at 5th, which ironically was what the poll said. In New Hampshire, Biden's down by 10 points and Sanders is ahead by 8. In Nevada, it's more or less a dead tie. In California, Sanders is ahead by 8. In South Carolina, Biden has started to sag, so it's all about the momentum. And yes, to a certain extent, what the news anchor said about the fact that by not having the results immediately, you don't have a win to broadcast, and you also have a slight reprieve from the Iowa effect, which causes some candidates to drop out after losing even slightly in the first caucus. But if you don't do well in this, the momentum turns against you. And, I mean, Biden so far actually hasn't said anything on it, but it turns out that Sanders more or less won unofficially. And again, 33% of the slightly more than about a third of the things aren't in, but the preliminary results are good enough to say that basically Sanders won. And apparently Iowa has its own version of the electoral college system for delegates, so it's too soon to tell how the delegates are going to be awarded, other than the fact that Sanders and Pete will sweep up most of them. So the thing is, I was right about Biden losing this one, and I'm predicting that he'll probably lose the next two out of 3. He'll lose in New Hampshire. He'll lose in California. Nevada will probably be close. In South Carolina, he might win by a few points. So if you lose the next 3 out of 4, you don't have much hope for the general. Yeah, so that's a review and an update on my Iowa predictions, which I made a year and a half ago, and the last-minute projections and the actual results. Like, comment, and subscribe if you've not done so. This is Sean Hartnett wishing you a good day. And also, I will probably have another episode of Pandemic Update, Pandemic Watch, dun dun dun, and a book review as my regularly scheduled content, probably later today. Thank you.